Hey everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm just going to wait a few more seconds and let some other people in the conversation. So happy to see you here. Even showing your faces on Monday night. Love it.
That's impressive.
Okay.
Yes, I have the chat feature open, so I am going to go ahead and get started. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining our Macros and Menopause live training. We are excited to be here. We're excited to see you. We're going to be chatting all about menopause, the what and whys of macros, and how they can help you fuel your body through menopause. So as you're joining this live training, drop in the comments where you are viewing us from and one thing that you are struggling with in midlife. And we will be opening it up for questions at the end, so you can use the chat feature for that too. But again, if you're just joining us, put where you're listening in from and one thing that you're struggling with in your midlife years. So we've got some East Texas, some California, Costa Rica. Oh, I want to be in Costa Rica. Awesome. New York, California. So I'm seeing some struggle with sleeping, weight gain, weight, sleep, stress. Got some more California, Maine. Hot flashes, stress. Okay, Minnesota, hello. It's cold up there. I can't lose weight. Wisconsin, Tennessee, North Carolina, Seattle, Colorado. Awesome. Welcome, welcome, everybody. So exciting to see everybody across the country here. So excited. Mansfield, Texas. You're close to me. Patience to tone and interrupted sleep. New York, New Jersey, the muffin top. Trouble sleeping. I hear a lot of the same things, aren't you, Celeste?
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing all the same things.
Yes. Peru. This is exciting. Awesome. Okay, well, welcome everybody. If you're just joining, again, we're just having everybody put in the chat where they're from and one thing that they're struggling with in their midlife years. So my name is Neely Cheddar. I am so excited to be here and I am one of your hosts tonight. I am a certified fast way to fat loss coach and a certified macro coach. I was certified as a personal trainer in my 20s and have always had a love for working out. And I always thought I was eating pretty clean, but really until 4 years ago when I joined the Faster Way, I realized I was not eating the right foods for my activity level. And that's where macros came into my life. And in the past 4 years, I've helped thousands of women build muscle, boost their metabolism, lose fat, and just find confidence back in their skin. So I'm so happy to be here. And I want to welcome my co-host tonight, Celeste McKean. I'm going to just hand it over to her and let her introduce herself. And then we're going to take a deep dive into our topics.
I'm Celeste McKean. I'm actually a certified in functional medicine. And I've been practicing for the past 3 years as a nurse practitioner, learning all about hormones. I'm in that same discipline of life. I'm 47. So even learning about it as going through it, it's something that we don't talk about very much. And I've helped hundreds of women just kind of balance their hormones. And I've actually worked with Neely on Faster Way to really, even get more of the nutrition side too. And we've worked together in the last couple of years to balance each other.
Yes.
So.
Yes, we are partners in crime. I love that we're able to work together and help our clients in both regards. It's been amazing. And we do just want to put a disclaimer out there that we are, she is not your doctor. I am not your trainer, and so we are not going to be answering specific personal questions. Just follow up with your own doctor for your own personal medical advice. We just wanted to put that as a disclaimer. This is a conversation and some information that we just want to provide for you. And we're just glad that you can be here. And just a conversation about menopause just isn't out there a lot. And I think that a lot of us struggle with it. I'm 48, she's 47. Most of you here probably in your 40s and 50s. And if you're here, there's probably a reason. You're probably wondering what the heck's going on. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just gonna, have this conversation with Celeste, and then we'll open it up at the end for some questions. So Celeste, what exactly is menopause? Can you give us some details on the stages that come before, during, after?
Yes. So it's really hard right now. The medical definition of menopause is a year without a cycle. The hard thing is, in our generation, there are so many who've had partial hysterectomies, who have had been on birth control for a long time, had IUDs, all that. And so it's a little bit harder to totally define it, but the average age of menopause is actually about 51, but you can go 10 years before that, starting perimenopause, which is all that means is before menopause. So your hormones are you're starting not to ovulate as much, just because we're getting older. We don't want to make babies in our 50s. And it can go all the way. So if you think of your average age of menopause at 51, you can be having symptoms from 41 to 61. So that's a huge thing. And so basically your regular cycles in your 20s, are kind of good up and down. You're probably having babies during that time. You may or may not. And so basically your ovaries start to die off, and your body's just going into, I don't want to have any more babies. And so your progesterone, your estrogen are kind of balancing out. And when we don't make as much progesterone, which is when we ovulate, then we get those higher estrogen symptoms. And so estrogen's kind of a excitable hormone. And I say progesterone's your calming hormone. So that's why, you're kind of calm when you're pregnant and things like that. So those surges are actually estrogen surges. And that's what gives us kind of hot flashes. And then, when we've gone through all that, we don't have any hormones. All of those hormones have kind of gotten depleted, and before menopause, which can last up to 10 years. And then you have menopause, which is usually when you've stopped, and then you don't have any hormones after that. So that's kind of what's going on, is basically our cycles have changed.
Yes. And hormones do get a bad rap. And I just want everyone here to realize that there are things that you can do to make menopause and perimenopause not as bad. There we go. Okay. So I know lots and lots of women come to me with symptoms like, I have terrible sleep and night sweats and belly and back fat and mood swings and my joints hurt and all these things. Like, what's going on?
So a lot of it is your estrogen. Estrogen's the last hormone to kind of drop off. And so, like I said, progesterone's that calming hormone. And the hard thing about estrogen is, in today's world, we have so many, we call them pseudoestrogens or fake estrogens, that you walk outside and you have some type of hormone disruptor going on. And so we have those, plus we're not ovulating anymore. And so we don't have any of that progesterone to kind of calm that estrogen. And so that estrogen, if we're not getting it out of our and doing things like fueling our body with macros and working out and things like that, it sits in there and it actually works into your joints and and you can get some nutritional deficiencies even with that, because you're not eating the right food. And sometimes that estrogen will actually upregulate to testosterone. So I have a lot of women that are like, I am 40 something years old, or I'm 50 years old, and I've gotten acne. Well, you have that high estrogen and it goes to testosterone, and you have that acne, that belly fat, that back fat. And you also have cortisol, because cortisol tries to calm that. And so with that cortisol, with stress and a bunch of us work and kids and all of that, that stress goes straight to belly. So a lot of things that need to calm that were not happening anymore. And so that's where you kind of get some of that belly fat, that pain can happen. And your body's just trying to figure out what the heck it's doing.
Yes. And the good news is that with some proper nutrition and
Yes.
eating a different way, which are called macros, and I'm going to chat with you guys just a little bit about that. Some of these symptoms can get better. And that's the great news, that we don't have to suffer. We can go through menopause feeling better with more energy and clarity. So macros, and how the heck can they help us with hormones? So macros are our large nutrients, meaning they make up all the food we eat, and they are proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And we need them all, and we need them all in proper amounts. The first that we're going to talk about today is protein, because protein is what I call is the magic macro. Most women aren't getting enough of this, but it's important, and it's going to keep you full and satisfied. It's going to protect and preserve that lean muscle, build new muscle as well. But protein helps your body repair cells and make new ones. So we need that protein in our body. It's found in every part of your body: muscle, bone, tissue, skin, everything. And it also helps make enzymes for you to help digest your food. So it's very important in regulating hormones as well. So all three are very important in regulating hormones. We have to make protein a priority. It's so common for women to eat maybe 10 to 15% of their food intake as protein. Women, especially in midlife, need to have increased protein up to 25 to 30% of their daily calories, so we can build and maintain that muscle. Macros are just going to help you age so much better. You're just going to fuel your body properly. It's not calories in, calories out anymore. What we did in our 20s and 30s, we could go jog a few miles. We could decrease calories to 1200, and we'd be, bam, back in swimsuits, right? That's not going to happen in our midlife anymore. Actually, our hormones hate it when we crash diet. They hate it when we do tons of cardio. They want us to eat more food, and our body will just hang on to fat if it thinks it's starving, because it's not sure what we're going to do tomorrow, So we have got to start fueling instead of feeding. So some examples of protein: obviously meat, fish, chicken, eggs. And then there's plant-based sources. So you could be eating beans, legumes, lentils. Even vegetables have a little bit of protein in them. But the biggest takeaway from this is protein has to become a priority. You have to focus on it, because it's very easy to eat carbohydrates and fats, where protein actually takes thought. It really does. And if you need a protein supplement, most of my clients have a protein shake or bar most days, just to get enough protein in their diet. So fats are energy sources as well, and they help us absorb specific nutrients in our body, and they're also great for hormones and our brain. They also provide so much texture and flavor to our food. So fats are not going to make you fat. If you are around my age, then you went through the low fat, no fat diet craze. Remember those days? Remember those Snackwells cookies that were 0 fats, and you thought you could eat the whole box because there's no fat in them? But over-consuming any macro can lead to fat storage. It's not just fats. Fats are energy. They're going to help your brain and all of your organs. We need fats in our diet. So examples of that would be meat, especially like grass-fed. And when we're talking about macros, we're going to be talking about like whole, real, clean food. Like if you can buy organic, the better. I know that they can get very expensive, but the better ingredients are what you want to focus on as well. Fish is a high-fat fish. Tuna, trout. You can eat some like fattier poultry, like chicken thighs, eggs, avocado. Oils like avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil are great. Full fat coconut milk is a great fat. Nuts and seeds and nut butters. Give me all the peanut butter. Love peanut butter. And then we have carbohydrates, which are often seen as the enemy, but really they're your body's preferred energy source. They initiate the blood sugar response, and we need that to initiate insulin response. So insulin is considered our master hormone, and that is going to turn on and off your other hormones like estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. So all of these new macros you've seen, all we've said, all help your hormones in some way or another. So we need them all. Carbs, again, your body's preferred energy source. If you're tired, you probably just need some carbohydrates. You feel fatigued, you probably just need some carbohydrates. So we need them, our organs need them, our brains need carbohydrates. Your thyroid needs carbohydrates. When you will feel an increase in your energy and your mood, your workouts will become better. So some examples of carbohydrates: fruit. Have you given up bananas? So many of my clients have given up all of fruit. Please take a banana and eat it tonight.
Yes.
Apples, potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash, vegetables, rice, oats, my favorite. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that oats are my all-time favorite. And then there's, whole grains, beans, and lentils. And you'll as you learn macros, you'll notice that many foods fall into more than one category. So like salmon is a fatty fish. So yes, it's high in protein and fats. Something like peanut butter is a fat, but it also has small amounts of protein and carbohydrates in it. So there's going to be some foods that are not just one macro, like a chicken breast. It's all protein because it's a lean, piece of meat. Tracking macros might feel like a game of Tetris at first. So if you like Tetris, you'll love tracking macros. Some people think it's like learning a new language, but what I can tell you is once you know it, it's a skill you'll have for the rest of your life. And my goal for my clients is that you don't have to track in an app for the rest of your life, but that you can look at your plate, know that you have a macro balanced plate just by looking at it. And if you eat 3 macro balanced plates, you're probably pretty darn close to your macro goals for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Do you have anything to add to that?
I would actually add fiber into the macro.
Fiber's not technically a macro, but it should be, right?
Yeah, I feel like it should be. That's the
Yes.
one thing because that's your biggest thing if you don't get 25 to 30 grams of fiber, and one of my favorite sources of fiber is beans. I saw in the chats, lots of people just saying they're vegan or vegetarian. The biggest thing you can is have beans, because those are a great protein source and a great fiber source. And we need fiber to actually help with our insulin and glucose. Just like Neely said, our insulin and glucose kind of gets screwed up in this day and time. And so we need that fiber actually helps our insulin regulation and our glucose regulation. So insulin resistance is kind of the big thing right now. And we see it a lot. When I do labs, I will say 80% of my patients are insulin resistant. They may have a normal A1C, but they're putting out so much insulin that their body, to keep their blood sugar down, but their cells can't uptake it. And that's where we get a lot of that belly fat and things at that time. And so I always lump in protein and fiber are my 2 big ones that I kind of focus on. Because if you're not getting enough protein, you're not getting enough fiber, those things. And I have so many of my clients come to me for keto. They're like, I'm on keto and I love it. And basically the hard thing is I can tell you, if you've ever tried keto in your midlife, you'll get a great weight loss. And you know why that is? Because you're eating a ton of protein.
Yeah.
And then
short term. It's
a short-term thing. But basically people will do it for a long term and they're like, I can't lose weight anymore. And it's because you need those carbohydrates to fuel you. And so I love Faster Way because it teaches, Neely's able to go with my clients and actually talk to them like one-on-one on how to do this. Whereas I don't have as much time to be able to do that. Yeah. But also, so that's my other, it's not technically a macro, but I kind of lump it into that.
And I do harp on fiber too.
Yeah.
If I see we have a fiber ring. So
yes.
In our app, we have protein, carbs, fats, and fiber. So it kind of is like the 4th macro.
Yeah. I feel like it's.
Yeah. It's at 15. I'm like, work on fiber tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I agree with you. And fiber, I mean, if you don't have fiber, you're not going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's
And
just,
you're not eliminating that extra estrogen. You're not eliminating a lot of those things. So that's what I say is the first thing you really have to do is get that regulation back. If you're not pooping every day, I know that sounds weird. That's where I start with my clients.
yeah, because you know what? Just by getting that regulated, you're going to start feeling better. I mean,
Yes.
you're not going to the bathroom every day. You're not feeling it.
Yes. Yeah. But you'd be amazed how many people come to my office. They're like, that's just me, you know. I'm like, that's not normal.
It's not normal. I see that somebody's asked how much fiber. It's 25 to 30 grams. It's what's recommended.
Yeah.
You get more, that's fantastic. I will say the best form of fiber that I find besides vegetables and fruits is seed, chia seeds, flax seeds.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I throw those in a protein shake almost every day.
Yes. They're always in my oats.
Yes.
Also, and I'm going to let Celeste take the lead on this one. And we do this in the faster way as well. We ask our clients to go gluten and dairy free.
So these are probably the two most highly inflammatory foods, especially for women. Dairy, I found even worse than gluten these days. Gluten has gotten a little bit better, and there's a lot of better sources of gluten out there. But dairy, if you think about dairy, it's coming with its own hormones in it, because it's coming from a cow that just had a baby. And so it's really complex, and they actually inflame you, and you can't get rid of them as well. So most of the time I ask my patients, just go 30 days, just without gluten, just without dairy, and just see how you feel. And some of my patients will add it back in and be like, yeah, that was great. I felt good, but they could add it back in and actually feel fine on it. And their numbers didn't do anything. And so I do ask them though, because I will say probably 90% of my patients will actually go, I feel amazing now. I don't know what that was, but I really feel like dairy for women, especially, is probably the most inflammatory in this stage. And there's really not a great source of dairy. To be honest, gluten has gotten a little bit better. I always go, is it really just the chemicals we spray on it, or is it really gluten? So that's the hard thing, but it causes bloating, causes joint pain, basically because you have extra hormones in there already. And so it usually causes those inflammations. I've actually watched it on patients. Their inflammation markers will go up if they add in those things. I will say from personal experience, I actually cut out gluten and dairy, and the only thing that was bad about my labs was an inflammation marker. But I took that out and they went back to normal.
Yeah.
So
I am the same. I ask my clients to at least go 3 weeks without it and then add one back at a time.
Yeah.
Because I read about a study on dairy. It's like 80% of the population is actually lactose intolerant. So sometimes you might not realize how bad it makes you feel until you take it out.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
With gluten, you might even realize there's other issues going on that are not caused just bloating and stomach digestion, but they can come out as fatigue and rashes, acne, and I mean, all kinds of symptoms with gluten.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are the two. Even I have teenagers in my office. Sometimes I'm like, just do it and they'll be like, oh, I don't have acne anymore, because it really does mess with your hormones. And so it's kind of a hormone disruptor.
Yeah, it is. I had to take dairy out in my 20s because I was bad. I can eat a little bit of Greek yogurt now, but that's really about all I can tolerate. I did see a question about, and I'm just going to go to it since we were just talking about macros, about complete proteins versus not complete proteins. And I'm sure this is coming mainly from people that don't eat a lot of meat. Do you want to take it, or do you want me to take this one?
Go ahead.
So If you've heard me talk about collagen, that's one that I usually say is a great supplement. You'll probably agree with that. It's really great
Yeah.
for skin, hair, nails, your gut,
Hmm.
but it's not a complete protein,
Yeah.
meaning that it's missing the stuff that makes us sleepy after we eat turkey. Is that wrong?
Tryptophan. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, how that's different from plant proteins, like beans, because you put them with another incomplete protein to make them a complete protein. So you can consume them as a complete protein. So each makes up for what the other is missing, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you need a lot of complete proteins, and that's why we do harp on trying to get those meats, those complete proteins from real food versus having I had a patient one time, so I can just do 15 scoops of collagen and I'm good.
Yeah,
Like, no.
that does not work.
So,
Okay, moving on. And I know that we might have some more questions about that too, but a few other tips that just may help with some of the symptoms that you're feeling is to maybe reduce your caffeine intake, cut back on some of the alcohol intake. I know that, sometimes that feels like a stress reliever at the end of the day, but it could actually, our body sees that as a toxin. So it could actually do more harm than good. Reduce sugar and artificial sweeteners. And
sugar is a huge one. Huge. You're only supposed to get about 25 grams of sugar. Just look on the back of something and see how much added sugar it is. Now it's different, like a date, it has a lot of sugar in it, but it's a natural sugar. It's a natural sugar versus an added sugar. Because that's probably the one thing is looking at your sugars also. And I think, is that on your app too, Neely? Do they track?
We can track it in the nutrition.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's probably a big thing, is to realize how much hidden sugars you get around.
Yep. I'm always like, become a detective of your own foods. Like, look at your labels, because it's honestly, our faster way just did a sugar detox for 5 days, and it is just eye-opening when you start to flip your food around and you're like, oh gosh, this has 8 grams of sugars in it, and you're like, why is there sugar in this product? Like, there's ketchup, why is there sugar in there?
Yeah.
But don't be afraid to eat, like she said, dates and fruits. Those are not added sugars, those are natural sugars, so we can still eat them.
Yeah. And you have to look in like dried fruits. That's a big one. I didn't realize how much of a hidden source that it was until I was going through some of the process. Is a lot of the dried fruits, which a lot of people do this time of year, but most of them have sugar in them. Like, they add sugar.
They do. So check the label, and if it says on the back, like if you get the dried bananas and it says bananas, you're good to go.
Yeah.
But if ingredients say bananas, sugar, blah blah blah, then put it back on the shelf.
Yes.
The other tip I have for reading nutrition labels is, if it has 100 ingredients, or let's just even say 20, that you can't pronounce 16 of them, put that back on the shelf. You don't want it. You can't pronounce the ingredients, or you don't even know what they are, you don't need to eat it. You don't want to put that in your body.
Yeah.
The great thing about going gluten and dairy free too is that whole foods are naturally gluten and dairy free. So when you're eliminating processed foods and you're adding more real whole foods, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. And even just shopping the perimeter, I think it's this way in most countries. I don't know, at least in America it is.
Yes.
I know some people are around, but even going to farmers markets, things like that, but shopping the perimeter, those are the things that are all natural food, because your meat, your produce, all of that, try not to go into the aisles as much.
When they're for beans and rice and oats.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, there's some stuff you need to go for.
Yes.
So, but trying to get the main stuff out of, I usually say, if it grows out of the ground or if it lives on the ground, then you can eat it.
Yep. Our CEO says, if it has a mother or grows on a tree, you are good to go.
Yeah.
Yep. Someone has asked about stevia, and in the Foster Way, we say stevia is okay. Your thoughts on stevia?
Yeah, there's some controversial studies right now about stevia. We say it's okay. It is a natural sugar. I usually say try and limit it as much as you can. And things, if you need like some type of drink, I'll add a drop or two into an iced tea every now and then. But for the most part, there is some studies that saying it's disrupting the microbiome. But that's really with a lot of things are disrupting the microbiome right now. So that's yet to be determined, but we say stevia is okay too.
Yeah. So let's continue on with our conversation about menopause. What testing can be done for our hormones? And are there any supplements that may help with some of our symptoms?
Yeah. So testing is basically, I think lots of people have gone away from testing. Back in the 2000s, there was the Women's Health Initiative that said all hormones were horrible, but we need to see where they're at. And that's all we're testing. So basically, estradiol is your main estrogen that you can ask for them to test. And FSH, if you've had a hysterectomy, but you still have your ovaries, and FSH just yearly is actually good to test. If it's really high, then that means you're probably closer to menopause because you still are cycling if you have your ovaries. So I have my nurse practitioner run an FSH on me. I have my ovaries, but I don't have a uterus. So your estradiol, your progesterone, and then you can also do testosterone, but I actually ask to get an insulin on everybody now. That's kind of a standard test for me. If you are still cycling, and let's say you have a 28-day cycle, you want to actually test your hormones around day 19 to 22, because that's where you can find your progesterone, which is that calming hormone, because a lot of us are deficient in that. And so there's things on that. So those are the times I would test, and those are the ones I test. But you actually need to work with a practitioner that actually understands that. Because even endocrinologists, a lot of OB-GYNs don't even understand what's in with hormones. There's been a lot of stuff since that Women's Health Initiative in the early 2000s. So ask your OB-GYN or ask your doctor, hey, do you know somebody, or are you able to look at this for me and things. Some of our supplements in menopause, black cohosh has probably the most data out there, I would say. Basically, your liver can't, you want to make sure that you don't have any liver issues if you take black cohosh, but it does have some evidence for helping with hot flashes, if you're good on that. Don Quay, sometimes that's more in perimenopause, but it can help with some of those heavier cycles. Since you don't have that progesterone, sometimes you get heavier cycles later in life. And so that can be helpful. Ginseng is it helps with adrenals, it helps with sleep, it helps with mood. And then evening primrose oil. I think I even heard about my mother talking about this when I was younger. But there's actually a lot of data on it. It does help with hot flashes. And then some people say red clover is a good one. And there's also some, I actually say a lot of times your orange foods will actually help you produce more progesterone, which is kind of that calming hormone, kind of decrease. It helps with estrogen metabolism. So I actually tell people to eat carrots, like an actual Bugs Bunny carrot, every day, or a sweet potato, because those can actually help with the regulation of that.
I definitely eat a sweet potato.
I know. So I was like, oh yeah. So, and carrots, baby carrots, that's what we get a lot. Baby carrots don't have the good nutrients on the outside of the carrot. So, if you ever go to Costco, if you're around Costco has the big carrots and the baby carrots right next to each other. They're both organic. Get the big carrots and just wash them and eat them like that.
That's a good tip. I did not know that. 'Cause I usually get the baby carrots because they're just easy to pop in my mouth.
They're easier to pop in your mouth, but they don't have the skin on them.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that good fiber and nutrients have actually been taken off. So,
So now I just want to chat a little bit about the importance of exercise and
yes.
what we can be doing in our later life. And my best tip, and you probably already know what I'm going to say, is to start strength training. I highly recommend that women in midlife years strength train at least 3 times a week. And
Mhm.
a program, like an actual lifting program, not a class, so that you're building muscle. As you're building that muscle, your metabolism is going to be elevated because our metabolism does start to be depleted. And when you boost your metabolism with weights, even you're going to have a higher metabolism when you're resting, in which we want that. And you want to be able to eat more food. That's the goal. And exercise is a great stress relief too. As
Mhm.
you get stronger, you're going to be able to live and do daily tasks easier with age too. I mean, think about what in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and you want to get up off the floor, simple, tasks that used to be easy, they get harder as we age. Our joints start to hurt. And so strength training is also good for bone density and
Mhm.
so many good things.
Yeah.
And then I say movement, move your body, walk,
Mhm.
try to get 7 to 10,000 steps in a day. I know that cardio can be fun. Some people love to do classes or they like to run. And I'm not going to say give it up, because if you love and enjoy doing that, do it. But if you want to see your body composition change and some of that back and belly fat go away, strength training needs to be part of your routine.
Yes.
And make you feel so much better to be strong. And you can always
Mhm.
add in a little high intensity interval training. I'm not opposed to that either. 1 to 2 days a week, but you don't need to do it 7. Um,
Mhm.
but 2 is plenty. And then just aim to get up from your desk. We all sit a lot with our jobs. And so movement is the key, especially in our midlife years.
Yeah. The first place I start with my patients is, if they're not exercising at all, is just walking.
Yeah.
And walking is actually good for insulin regulation. If you get up and do a 5 to 10-minute walk after you eat, it actually helps that glucose go into your muscles and build your muscles versus sitting and going into your belly fat. And then we lose muscle. If you're in your 30s or early 40s, start strength training now. But you start to lose muscle as you start to lose some of those hormones. And so it actually does, just like Neely said, boost your metabolism. So I actually tell people, if you want a place to start, is get some hand weights and ankle weights and walk. And so, and just light ones, and just try and walk. Yeah. And then add in some strength training, and you can do simple things first and then actually add in good weights.
Yeah. And as you start to weight train, I mean, even if doing body weight exercises is fantastic. Body weight squats and lunges are great. They will build strength. And then as you build that strength, you will be able to add some hand weights,
Yeah.
dumbbells into your hands. Bands are also great resistance. But it is so important. And I say, if you haven't started, start tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Start doing some squats, start trying to do some push-ups. Even if they're on your knees, you're just going to start feeling so better. And you're going to be sore at first, and that's okay, because
Mm-hmm.
you start by, breaking down the muscle, and then you fuel it in the kitchen with your protein, and then you repair it when you sleep. So sleep's also going to be an important part of your journey.
Yeah. And sleep is probably the least vital sign that we take. And so if we're not getting sleep, and I will tell you, if you just go for a walk, you start to increase your protein, you will see your sleep be better.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would say 90% of my clients say their sleep gets better with what we have included in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
And if you don't have good quality sleep, it is very hard to lose fat. It just,
Yes.
your hormones are messed up with, I mean,
Mhm.
your hunger hormones are off, your cortisol is off, and those two affect so much.
Yes. Yes. And so a lot of times that cortisol is the big one that kind of gets off. If you're waking up at 3 in the morning, it's usually your cortisol is trying to figure out what the heck it's doing. And just getting up and really walking, just start there and eating. I said, if you can't hit any macro, hit your proteins
Yeah.
in this life. So,
Agreed. Well, Celeste had given me a book to share with all of you in case you wanted a resource, and it's called Menopause 50 Things You Need to Know. I just got it, so I haven't read it yet, but it's on my nightstand now.
if Felice Gersh is probably the leading hormone guru in my realm in functional medicine. She's an actually OB-GYN that didn't understand why people were being dysregulated and things like that, and really delved into the research. That book has probably a million tips just to understand even what's going on with your body. And it's pocket size.
Yeah.
I had one I had one patient who she was like, yeah, she was like, I'm going to carry this everywhere when I have something. But even strange symptoms can sometimes be symptoms of menopause, but that's working with your doctor too. But it's a great resource.
Yeah. So I'm just going to start looking through some questions. If you have any questions for either of us, just go ahead and put them in the chat feature. We're going to look through that real quick, and then we will wrap it up for the night. Let's see.
And I would say too, if you're not going to the bathroom every day, that's probably the number one thing that needs to happen. That'll help with walking. And then basically, one of the biggest things is magnesium. Just get some magnesium, will help with your sleep, will help with going to the restroom. I like magnesium glycinate.
Taking that at night, right?
Yeah, taking it at night.
Yep. The name of the book was called Menopause 50 Things You Need to Know, and it's by Felice Gersh. FeliceGersh. I will include the name of that in the email that I send with the recap as well. Let's see, intermittent fasting. Can you touch on that? So personally, in the Faster to Fat Loss, we do practice intermittent fasting. It is not a diet, it's an eating window. And so when you are fasted, your body actually has time to reduce inflammation and repair. I start all my clients on a 12-12 schedule and then work them to see what is their sweet spot. We can work all the way up to 16-8. I think that it's very beneficial, and it's great to do. It can help keep your weight in check and gives you a schedule. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think everybody in the world should be at least a 12-12. For a lot of women in menopause, I tell them probably not to go over 14 hours. And that's just because it's hard to get as much nutrients if you're building muscle and things like that. It's hard for most of my clients to get that nutrients in that short amount of time. And so I usually I like personally a 14-8.
That's kind of a sweet spot for most of my clients.
Yeah.
I'm just looking back at some other things. Some people have asked about goat cheese.
Goat cheese, there's not as many hormones in them. And I see a lot of people can actually tolerate that a lot better.
Yeah. A good protein shake. There are lots of good protein shakes on the market. I usually say find one that actually works for you. And I usually say to get sample sizes, because what might work for me might not work for you. We all have different intolerance levels. Like for me, pea protein, even though it's a vegan protein, really upsets my stomach. So I always suggest going to your local GNC or, Central Market where they have samples and grabbing a
Mhm.
few sample packs. And sometimes to me, the protein has to also taste good.
Yes. That's my number one thing is there's a lot of gross ones out there. But I also say as few of ingredients as you can find. There's some proteins that I've seen, I don't know how many lists.
I agree. And look at the sugar and this
Yes.
artificial sweeteners on them too. Look at how much is in there as well.
Hmm.
I try to get a protein shake that has mostly protein, so you're not uh,
Yes.
having a bunch of carbs and other things in it as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me see. What are your thoughts on bioidentical hormone replacement?
I think it actually is a great thing. I do it in my practice all the time. There's a lot of great evidence for it. But you really have to work with a practitioner that knows what they're doing. Um, there's a lot that don't. And so just working with somebody, you can go to IFM or A4M. Those two are actually certified hormone practitioners. You can search their website. I'm
Great.
certified through IFM, so Institute of Functional Medicine. And so just make sure that they actually know what they're doing because a lot don't.
Um, have you heard about testosterone pellets helping with balancing hormones?
It can. There's I do those in my practice too. And that's really I'll be honest, try and start women on getting enough fiber and lifting weights. Um, I've actually seen women double and triple their testosterone. They had none before, and just going, let's work on your actual nutrients and working on building muscle. And I've been amazed just in my own practice, just those two things, the lifting weights and getting enough fiber can double your testosterone.
It's amazing. That's why when I seriously say, and I know that some of you that see me on Instagram, when I say that lifting weights is the fountain of youth, it truly is.
It
It
is.
truly is.
Yeah. There's a lot of studies out there. If you ever wanted to, look into the studies. But the biggest thing is glucose regulation. That's the biggest thing in our world right now that people is glucose dysregulation. And if you can build muscle, you're actually taking that sugar into your muscles and it's burning them instead of just sitting in your belly.
So important. I see some people have said that they work out and they think that their calories are probably too low. They probably are. I will tell you that 99.9% of the clients that come to me are under eating.
Mhm.
And so when I give them their macros and tell them to eat more whole real food, and we have meal guides to help that, they're saying they're eating more food than they ever have in their life, and they're dropping weight and they're
Mhm.
building muscle. And it's just
Yeah.
because as women, we have just become accustomed to eating less food than we really normally should be eating. And
Yeah.
our bodies need a certain amount of calories just to move, just to get out of bed,
Mhm.
for our eyes to blink. So
And and I also tell women, this is from my personal experience too, is you may not always want to weigh yourself. You need to measure yourself. Is a big thing. I basically lost 2 pounds, at one point when I was really going hard and trying to lose that weight. I lost 2 pounds, but I dropped 3 sizes.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
so
One scale away.
I was building a lot of muscle. And so I just tell people that because sometimes we get so focused on the scale that it's a hard to go, oh, but I am losing things,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm not at that number that I want.
Yes. And that's a mindset thing. And we work with our clients a lot on that as
Yes.
well. We don't focus on the scale. And you'll see, we talk about non-scale victories on Fridays because we want to talk about those things that are not attached to the scale. We take pictures and we take measurements. And then
Mhm.
we take those two things at the end of our 6 weeks. Because like you said, if you're dropping pant sizes, who cares what the scale says? Right?
Yes.
I'll be completely honest. I've actually
Yeah.
gained weight since I started the faster way,
Yeah.
but I'm probably smaller because I
Mhm.
put on so much muscle and my clothes just fit different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've been eating more food than I ever have in my whole entire life.
Yes.
Which is, that's what we want. We want people to be eating food again.
Yes. Yeah.
So a lot of people are just talking about fasting. What tests would you recommend for better understanding your glucose regulation?
Really, you can get just a normal glucose test, which is included in pretty much everybody. It's what's called a CMP every year. But a hemoglobin A1C, you can see your glucose over 3 months. But I will say a lot of those is normal, but I get a fasting insulin level I've pretty much started doing it on every one of my clients that walks in the door now. And there's a lot of ways you can really help do. Like I said, the easiest way, eat protein with every meal and snack. I mean, it really helps with calming down that glucose, that insulin. And a big thing is taking a walk after you eat, just a 5 or 10-minute walk, around the parking lot. If you work, I work too. I take a mile walk. I try to, if it's not raining out, around a huge parking lot that my office is in and things. But taking a walk actually helps that glucose get into your muscles instead of depositing in your fat if we go sit at our desks.
I think that the takeaway here is we need to take walks after we eat. We need to start strength training, and we need to fuel our bodies with food. So I hope that those are the 3 takeaways that you guys got from this call. I have my last Faster Way to Fat Loss group starting on Monday. Next Monday, you have a week for this year. And I would love to invite you to be a part of that. There is a $25 Black Friday discount this week, and the code is SAVE25, and my link will be in the replay email. You can attach that code at your checkout. I will be your coach, and I'll help you track macros. We do some carb cycling. We practice intermittent fasting, and all the things that Celeste and I talked about tonight are pretty much included. We strength train, but we also do some active recovery. We focus on steps and mindset and reducing stress. So I would love to have you join us and be a part of my next group. And Celeste here in Texas can tell you a little bit about her practice if you need some testing done. And I'll include all of her information in the recap email as well.
Yeah. And I work with a lot of nutritionists. I send a lot of people to Neely because she's amazing to just help people out. I do kind of all the medical side, but she can really hold your hand, and really, I've worked with her myself. So you can really do that.
Do you want to tell her about your practice?
Yeah, my practice is called South Lake Integrative Wellness. Basically, we do everything. We're a primary care, but we focus on hormones and things. And we get your whole history and everything. I actually do telemeds. I do in person. Usually I want to see you in person a couple of times a year, but you can go to our website, southlakewellnesscenter.com, and kind of look around. We do a lot of things at our center, but I'm kind of the hormone person there.
Well, we are so thankful that you all were here, and we plan to get together more often and do these conversations, and hope that you will join us again. Thank you, Celeste, for being my co-host tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you all for joining us tonight and taking time out of your day. The replay will be sent, so if you want to listen again to any of the information, I will also attach the book that we talked about and both of our links so that you can check us out. If you have questions, you can email us back and we will be in touch. But again, thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight. We had fun, and we hope that you leave with some great tips. All right. Good night, everyone. Thanks so much.